Thank you so much for being a guest on this podcast. We have a very special guest, actually a lot more different than my other guests, but this is a lot more interesting because it adds a lot more layers of complexity to who you are as a person. And just right off the bat, can you introduce yourself?
Hey everyone, it's your girl Jackie Faye. I'm from Dallas, Texas. I am a musician, I'm a rapper, so go check me out, check out all my music videos out there. And yeah, it's good to be here with you today, Christine. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Yeah, you're like the first person that I have that's in the music industry. So it's going to be a lot more interesting to hear because I don't know anything about it. So just listening more about your journey could be a lot more interesting, kind of like your adventures and even like balancing your full-time job. I'm like, how do you do that?
I mean, I'm not even in the music industry like that. I've just started to try and get my feet wet into doing music like seriously. So okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I just want to make it clear, I'm no expert on the music industry whatsoever.
But indie or not, you're still like a creative, so that way you are writing your own music, right? You're writing your own lyrics as well.
Yes, ma'am.
Wow.
That's like the best part. That's the best part about it, actually. Writing, I guess like I feel like in order to be an artist right now, you have to do a bunch of things. Like you have to sort of have a marketing hat for social media stuff. Then you kind of have to have an interview hat for this kind of stuff. And then you also have to focus on like the basics of being an artist, which is like actually your craft and your writing and your emoting, if that's, you know what I mean? The ability to emote whatever you're feeling. So I feel like, it's really interesting that you have to kind of be all those things as an artist even now, especially. Anyway.
Do you get some help because you have a manager, right? Or do you still have to do all of that yourself?
So shout out to Ashley, my manager, really quick. Yeah, so right now I would say I'm pretty small. The team is just like homies that I asked to come through for specific things. And Ashley, for example, is my manager, and shout out to her, she's amazing. She helps me like book gigs, interviews, and like put my music out there and just connect me with people. Because part of the battle is really just like getting your music in front of people, let alone and then the other half is getting them to listen to it. But then it's kind of her, but then sometimes I ask my homies who know have a really good camera to come through and be like, hey, we're doing a video shoot, come through, can you come through, because I don't have a camera. And that kind of stuff. So right now it's pretty like it's a small operation, but it's a cool one. We move solid.
All right, so I do have this question that I asked to all of my podcast guests. I'm curious about your answer on this. Is if you had all the time in the world, what would you be doing?
Oh dang, I don't know. Probably music. Probably sitting there writing music, playing with a guitar. I don't know. That's probably what I would be doing.
Oh, you play guitar too?
Well, I try. I try my best. No, I just like the way it sounds. Yeah, I've been playing since like I got one when I was a kid, and you just look up YouTube videos. My mom was never like, here's money for lessons. So as I started making money as an adult, I started trying to like take lessons. So I try my best. But yeah, if I had all the time in the world, it'd be cool to just, because I feel like with art, like the reason why people can spend so much time on it and like get really lost in the sauce of creating like an art product, if you will, is because they want it to be perfect, like a perfect representation of what they're trying to say or whatever. And it really can take you forever. Like the smallest thing that doesn't make any difference really to the listener. But yeah. Side rant.
I'm curious, but how did you first get into music? Was it something you were raised under, or did something spark it?
That's a good question. I think I've been around music since I was pretty young. Since I was young, I can remember my mom playing music all the time, my sister playing music all the time, my grandparents playing music all the time. Like my dad had also like a recording studio. Ooh. So he would like record these like Taiwanese like people in LA, and for the community, I guess, and like would put together these like CDs, and he would like burn CDs and stick stickers on them and put them into like the cases and like sell them. I don't know where, I honestly have no idea where he sold them, like at the market or whatever. So there was that from like a studio standpoint, and then also just musically, like the typical Asian like piano lessons until like maybe the third grade. And then, yeah, just being around like music all the time because people would always play it. Like my mom was Delilah Radio. And then my sister was 97.9, K104 hip hop. And then
wow.
My grandpa was always playing like Teresa Tang, the legend. And then, yeah, my mom watched a lot of like Korean like music shows. So like Music Bank and all that stuff. Like,
oh yeah, I know that.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, well, like they used to back in the day, like before, like maybe the 2000s, they used to like record them on VHS tapes. Like when Blockbuster was around, and you would go to like the Korean Blockbuster and you would rent like Music Bank. And she would like watch them, and I'd be like, wow, like this is amazing. And it was like Sonia Shida and like all these other people. So I'd say, yeah, I guess like I've just been around it, and I've always loved it, and I've always liked doing it.
Yeah. So if they're in music, do they actually support you doing whatever you're doing? Because I feel like most Asians are like, you need to be an engineer, a lawyer, a doctor.
Well, I am technically an engineer. Maybe that's why they can't say shit. But no, I think for the most part, I mean, there's still an element of, hey, like, be careful, like, you got to eat. I think because they just come from like a different generation, but they're pretty supportive. And I think the fact that I'm doing it, I'm not hurting anyone by doing it, like I'm still paying my mom's phone bills at the end of the day. Like I'm good, So yeah, it's been really nice having them support me.
So I feel like in the rest of this episode, we're going to uncover a lot, but what is something that most people don't know about you?
I'm like a caveman. What I mean is like, I can survive in the wild. I feel like just doing nasty, dirty shit, like not showering for a week or something like that. But anyway, yeah, that's about it.
You gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah, exactly. Like I will do some like janky shit. Cause anyway, I'm like a caveman.
So you mentioned earlier that you were also an engineer, or you are currently an engineer, actually. So you studied engineering. By day, you're a data engineer. By night, you're a rapper. So first off, why engineering? Was it because of your parents, or you actually genuinely wanted to do it at the time?
Yeah, it was definitely not because of my parents.
Okay.
I kind of grew up a little bit atypical from that Asian American story, even though I think most Asians do push like the doctor engineer thing. I think we tend to like think of Asian, when we think Asian, we think like East Asian, we think PhD Asian, we're not talking about all the other different kinds of, so my family is like a working class family, meaning like we came from the restaurant. So it wasn't like they were super educated and come from a background of education. Damn, I just spilled my coffee. Anyway, and so they wanted me to pursue higher education and college and stuff like that, but they weren't like super like, you need to do this. I think because they didn't know how to, like they wouldn't be like, I'd be like, hey mom, I'm having trouble with my calculus. She'd be like, I don't know what the fuck this is, and so there was a pressure to be like, hey, go to college and just do it. But there was no specific like, hey, you need to do this and this to get there, right? And so I think what pushed me to do that for me was this idea that because all the other Asians were like doctor, lawyers, and engineers, I just wanted to do it, to be a part of like what that sort of like representation or that idea in my head. And so I pursued it. At first I got into college too, as an aeronautical. I as a freshman, I was like an astronautical engineer or something like that.
Whoa.
Yeah, I was trying to get into the school, girl. I was trying to scam my way in. I was trying to be different. I was like, there's no girls in this program. Let me do that.
I respect that.
Oh yeah, I mean, you gotta do what you gotta do. No, and then so I got there, and my first exam, bitch, I kid you not, the title of the exam, it was the midterm. It was rocket science, and I was like, I got a 13 on that exam.
Oh my god.
And I was like with the curve, like a 13%. And I was like, okay, maybe this isn't the right choice. So then I was really into coding when I was a kid. I think because my dad was also like a computer kind of guy. So then I really liked it. And I was like, you know what, let me just try going for computer science. I didn't want to be that bitch But I guess let's just go for it. And I loved it. And then so I ended up with computer science and business. Yeah. So that's where that engineering path came from.
So you were like majoring in computer science and business, or was like one of them was a minor?
It was like a joint degree.
Okay.
So you basically had to take like the core classes for both pathways. Because I figured if I took business, maybe I can land a consulting job, which ended up happening. Anyway, so yeah, I figured it would be good for the job market. That's where my mind was at. I think I was just really focused on like making money back in the day to get myself out of what I felt like I needed to get out of.
So I would say computer science and rapping is like completely different, but what are some similarities and synergies that you see? Like I can't think of anything, but maybe you do because you're in it.
That's a great question. Oh, I could write a thesis. Yeah, so there's so many similarities. Like music is math. Music is literally math. I have no citations for this yet, but in my opinion, what's really, really interesting about hip hop specifically, and you know, when I say hip hop, I'm including like, you know, rap and all the other stuff that comes along, is the nature of the instrument itself is algorithmic. So what I mean by that is like, you know, like DJs back in the day, they would take a record and then they would like spin it and they would pick a loop, like where it drops, and they would replay it over and over and over again. That's pretty algorithmic. I mean, most music you can argue is like somewhat algorithmic, but hip hop specifically is super, super algorithmic. Like even when rappers and the cadence that they choose and the rhythm that they choose to sit on, like flow, like for example, like Meg Thee Stallion's flow is like very a certain style, and you got other people's style. It's like algorithmic. It's the same sort of flow that you can recognize in somebody because it's there's a pattern to it that's really interesting. So in my opinion, like there's so many overlaps actually between, and I feel like people, this is another rant. I feel like people think science, like something like computer science and art are opposites, but I actually don't think they're very, very similar in that you know, it's very measured, it's very intentional, it's very calculated. Whereas I feel like in time, and it's like focused on perfection. Whereas actually what I think is on the other end of the spectrum is business, where it's very just focused on time and money. Like time and money are the two most important things about efficiency. Whereas like, I don't think necessarily like if you're a scientist or an artist, for example, you're not thinking necessarily about efficiency 24/7, unless it's in the business context. So yeah, I think I answered the question right.
I think you did. I found this pretty interesting. The reason why I asked this is because, and this is something where like you fit the profile perfectly to ask this, since I actually listen to metal and people are like, how do you listen to metal and you're like this? And I feel like they're very similar because of the whole beats, and it seems very repetitive, but I think they're actually, I hope I'm not misspeaking here, but I think it's pretty similar to hip hop for that reason. That there's that repetitiveness, there's that beat, and to a certain point, there are synergies for that reason. Right.
I mean, I don't know shit about metal. More power to you. More power to you. But there have been really cool comparisons made in the past between hip hop and metal, just in terms of like how they're, besides the emotion of it all, but like a lot of the artists and the style and the rhythm. Yeah. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's dope. Did you listen to metal? Who do you listen to?
I just go on Spotify and I just loop random stuff. Like I don't actually have anyone I particularly listen to religiously.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So you just really like the genre of it.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I can't work with music that has actual singing or rapping in. I just do something where there's like some kind of thing in the background and it helps me concentrate. So that's what's like, there's synergy there. If I'm doing this, if I'm working for Accenture and listening to metal, like what is this?
No, that's definitely a way to do it.
So we know that you have a job as a data engineer and we know that you're a rapper. So how do you actually balance that? Because you're clearly full-time, right? And then you have rapping. Are you technically full-time or is that part-time for you?
No, I'm trying to make it as full-time as I can, but I only have like how many hours in a week. So I mean, but to answer your question, time management, I think But beyond like the operational aspects of it, I think it's like you really got to decide your why, and like your like what one you got to know what you want to do, but ultimately like you really have to tell yourself like, why am I doing this? Like, is it worth all this effort? Because obviously no one wants to spend 80 hours a week doing something that they don't give a shit about, like unless it's, you know, to pay the bills and all that other stuff. But in order to really manage it and get through it mentally, not just from like a logistical, I need to allocate this amount of time, you really have to be honest with yourself about what you want, how hard you're willing to work to get there, and what you're willing to sacrifice to get there along the way. And I think if your why is solid, you know what you're doing and why, that will motivate you a lot more than just being like, okay, I just want to do these two things, you know? The gas has to be there for you to want to move forward in the first place. So yeah, that's ultimately what I spend a lot of time thinking about, like, why do I want to do this? Because there should just be more Asian American women doing creative shit, letting people know we're out here. Obviously not in a problematic way, but, you know, in the best way we can, in the most honest way we can, which is what art is for. And then 2, discipline. I can't just be like in an elevated state, you know, 24/7. I can't really do that in the studio. I have to make sure that what I'm doing is also healthy for me. Like, I can't just work myself 20 hours a day. It's like I'll burn out, you know? Yeah. So there's a time management aspect, and also like making sure you have a good team around you and a support system. And that doesn't have to be your family. And this is something that you can definitely build, but it just takes a lot of work. Oh yeah, and work ethic. Like, you have to, that's the basic, like, you can't, like, the laws of physics, like, you need energy, you need like labor to go from point A to point B, you know? So yeah, I would say that's it.
Yeah, as like a full-time tech consultant, I'm also a content creator on YouTube and podcasting, clearly. Like, this is what the podcast is for. And I can clearly tell you definitely need discipline. I think a lot of people I know who are trying to do both at the same time, they're just like, oh, I'm going to just skip on this for now, but then I'll focus on my job because I have to. It pays the bills. But if you really care about it, you really should treat it as another job. So I'm actually kind of curious, but did you ever feel like you should bite the bullet, quit your job, and then focus on your music career, or the other way around?
Oh, interesting. Not yet. Not yet, because I'm still building the foundations of my music presence, right? I'm still very early on in that stage, in my opinion. So I'm spending as much time as I can. But in terms of biting the bullet, I do think there's going to come a point eventually. Like, even now, you know, I'm working that typical 9 to 5, and sometimes over, because my job is pretty demanding. Like, you're not really, your time isn't your time, you know? And so working around that, but also when you get like interview requests, you got to kind of prep for that. And then you get like live stream shows, which, you know, and these are good problems to have, definitely, because it shows that you're growing, like you're becoming more active as an artist, which is good. But at the same time, like, there's only so much time in a day. And I will eventually want to have that problem. That would be a great problem to have. But I really haven't gotten to that point to be able to be like, hey, this is how I did it. You know? Yeah. What about you, though? I feel like you've been doing YouTube for a lot more. How do you find that process?
It is not bad because I do everything like a consultant. So I do it from like a business mindset. I plan everything ahead of time. I strategically try to plan my time, so I batch everything too. So like, for example, my filming would all be 4 videos in one weekend, and then I'll just have 2 weeks just blank, do whatever I want to do. Because I also have to keep in mind that even though my job is typically 9 to 5, then I can't do work at night because, number one, there's like no sunlight at that time. And then number 2, I could be burnt out from work, or maybe there's like even calls that I have to do at night. So I like to plan for spontaneity, but also plan to make sure I have that wiggle room. So all my videos on that one weekend, maybe I could push it up one weekend if maybe I have like a birthday party or something like that that weekend. And so it's just like content batching, planning. So I take everything like as a full-time job. So the one thing that is a little bit interesting though, which I feel like could be different for you, I'm not entirely sure, is that I can choose when I can do things in terms of like, let's say if someone has a call that they want to do in terms of like maybe talk about my job or something like that. I do it at night. But let's say, for example, someone wants to interview you and they say the only times we could do it is during the business hours.
Right.
How do you do that? Like, do you do it during the business hours or you try to negotiate?
Yeah, well, definitely I try to push back first if I can. But again, I haven't come across that scenario where I've really had to sacrifice something.
Okay.
Because I also have the liberty at work right now because of just the previous amounts of grind and hazing that I've done in my first 2 years in consulting. Like, I have the ability to be like, hey, can we move this meeting here? Can we, you know? So I've been you know, finessing the shits. They haven't really been at odds yet, but I know it will eventually. Yeah. But yeah, I think that you're right though. Like, any sort of planning or organization is definitely instrumental. You can't just be like, oh, this is just what I want to fucking do. Like, no, you have to give yourself a deadline, because otherwise, and I don't think it has to be as strict as like business deadlines. You know what I mean? Because business deadlines are almost like, if you do this, we'll lose money. And in a way, it's kind of like that too. Yeah. But I think as women already, and as dual, almost like 2-time job people, and like one, you know, for your paying the bills and one for creative, you got to be able to like be flexible with yourself and forgive yourself if you because if you can't do something. And it's okay to say no. I'm realizing it's okay to say no, seriously, because otherwise, like, you're just gonna burn out and become like a shell of a human being, you know? So I don't know. Yeah.
I had that issue back in college where I would just like do everything at the same time, and then almost half of it was like for other people, it wasn't for me. So I knew, like, after I graduated, okay, I'm gonna do everything is for me. So if I had to give something up, I'll just do it.
Right. Yeah, no, I feel that. Yeah, oh my God, college. What were you doing in college, Christine?
I was actually majoring in business in college, and I had a work study job. I had internships almost every semester. I did a lot of student organizations, and one of them was like a business fraternity, so it's like super businessy.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
So you kind of knew the direction that you wanted to go from jump.
Yeah, I didn't know I wanted to do tech at that time, but then after I knew I wanted to do tech, then I was like, okay, maybe consulting, and then that's where I found Accenture.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. Oh, girl, I'm happy for you. Yeah, you sound like you worked your ass off, so good for you.
So I actually heard that you were in the 2016 Asian Pacific American Student Assembly Talent Competition, and this was during college too. So while we're on this topic, and you won first place. Like, how did that feel? How did you do that? Because you were also studying computer science and business at the same time, right? So it's...
Well, first of all, anyone who knew me in college knows that I was a crazy ass bitch. So that means like I would like party hard and work hard, and I never slept. Like, I think I sacrificed my youth. I don't even know how my liver is standing today. Anyway. Well, to answer your question, how did I do that? I have no idea how the fuck I did that. Because let me tell you, I didn't even know I was going to enter that talent competition until, and this is maybe into something that we're going to get into later, but I was really nervous. I wasn't even sure if I should put myself out there. And I was like, you know what, Jackie, fuck it. Like, you have this 16, you have this cover, at least do that one thing. Because I didn't have much content to perform. And so I put my name in there. I passed the round of auditions, because, you know, they auditioned for the set. And I was like, oh my God, I passed. Now I'm just going to practice. So like at the library, I would stay up to like 6 a.m. just like practicing, like everywhere I went. Like when I was on my way to class on my little longboard, I would have like the instrumental in my headphones at all times. And I would just constantly just like practice. And then, you know, in the mirror with a comb and shit. And I remember that weekend, my sister and her boyfriend were visiting me from Dallas. And they came through and she had the camera. And I told them, I was like, hey, I actually have a talent competition on Friday. Or do you guys want to come? And they're like, yeah, like, what is it? They had no idea what I was going to do. And she was like, let me just dress you up. Because my sister's kind of like a stylist. So she dressed me up. She did my hair. And I went up there. Dumbfounded was judging. And so was Dan, aka Dan. So 2 out of the 3 judges were rappers, right? And so I went up there. I was nervous as fuck. It was like one of my first times performing. And I just like did it. And it felt really good because I practiced so hard. And then I did it. And then, you know, everyone was like, oh shit, my sister caught it on camera. Then Dumbfounded said some really nice things. He was like, you know, like, there's not many Asian female rappers doing this. You should definitely like keep doing it. And I was like, And then that was kind of it. And then at the end, and there were so many cool other people. I think I was the only like female rapper, first of all.
Wow.
Which makes sense, I think, just demographically speaking. And I won first place. I had no idea I was gonna win first place, because there was other like singer-songwriters, really, really good. One dude was playing like 5 instruments at the same time. But I do think it was in my advantage that 2 out of the 3 judges were rappers. So, and I'm not saying that I also didn't do a good job or anything like that, but I had no idea who was gonna win.
Yeah.
Like, period.
Was some of your hesitation because the hip hop industry is mostly male and African American dominant? Was that why that you feel like you don't deserve a place on the stage?
Oh, interesting. No, I don't necessarily think I don't deserve a place on the stage either, or that's not the reason why I was afraid of it. Okay. I think it was more so the fear of judgment, which I think is just like women are judged more anyway. Yeah. And and I guess partly like, dang, what is this girl doing? Like, is she trying to like be something she's not? Is it really her? Is it appropriation? It's all that other kind of stuff. Because it does get kind of tricky when we talk about like the Asian American community and like the Black community here historically, just like the appropriation stuff. So there was that, but I think that fear, then I have to confront that fear, and it's like, am I not going to do this because I'm afraid of doing it? And if I'm afraid of this, then don't do that. Like, for example, if people are going to say shit like, oh, she's appropriating, she's like being fake, then whatever I put out there, just don't be fake. Like, really work hard to be intentional with the messages that you're putting out there. And then if you're afraid of people judging you, then it's like, confront that. Like, okay, why? Like, what will that do for you at the end of the day? Like, fuck what people think, you know? So I think there's a lot of elements, but that is definitely a different conversation about how it's just a lot of dudes in the hip hop industry.
Yeah.
I don't know why it's initially started out. I think like, you know, there's a lot, I don't know why they just started off. Maybe because it started off with dudes. I think there's also like an aggression. Okay. There's not always, but there's this like sort of back in the day, you know, I guess when we think about where it started and shit, like at the parties, the MCs just always so happen to be male. But I do think in terms of like success and this idea that like to never give up, I think just culture, like men sometimes, you know, men are cultured to be raised brave.
Yeah.
Whereas like women are cultured to be raised like perfect. You know what I mean? So like if a girl starts off with something like ballet and she sucks at it the first day, right? And she's like more likely to give up because she's not like immediately good at it. Whereas if like a dude tried, it's like he's not expected to be perfect maybe, so there's less pressure. But then he keeps trying and trying and trying and trying and trying. And then he gets there eventually. You know what I mean? Like there's not, that attitude isn't like invested enough in our women. And I think a lot of the times, and I'm not saying that that's why there's hip hop, I'm just saying generally that's why there tends to be less female representation in terms of things that like, you're really like trying to perfect your craft and stuff maybe. I don't know, but I have no citations for that. That's just my feeling. That's just my feeling. But I do think now, just because of like women empowerment and like, you know, just the movement of where we are in 2021, like we're getting better. There's more women in hip hop now, commercially than ever, which is like dope to see. Women also like just make more money than they used to, so we have a lot more control over like the products, even music products we invest in. And then like now's the best time to be a woman in hip hop, in my opinion.
So most people who put themselves out there receive a lot of hate, sometimes even those that are closest to you. How have you worked this out? And have you even gotten any hate?
I mean, yeah. I think that anyone puts themselves out there will get hate anyway. And I mean, sometimes people are just like assholes. like Donald Trump did himself to the max. And if you don't feel like putting this in there, but like he did him to the max.
Yeah.
But he himself is a dick. So like that's why a lot of people like there has to be an element of like obviously putting yourself out there and like confidence in doing you, while also like recognizing like, are you being an asshole? Like, or do you have integrity? Like, are you honest? Like these kinds of things. And so I understand it, but back to the hate issue, I think that when people see you doing something that maybe they feel like they could have done, or like whatever, they're really just mad at themselves.
Yeah.
They're really just upset with their own decisions sometimes, and then they
projecting it out.
Yeah, they just like project it onto you. And if they see a lot of similarities in themselves and with you, but you're like over here doing shit, it's easier to hate. You know, I feel like that's where the hater attitude comes from. But how do I deal with it? Bitch, fuck the haters. Suck my dick from the back. Period. Like, yeah, it's hard. It's easier said than done, but you really have to just train yourself to be like, is this what I want to do because I really want to do it? Am I being honest with myself? Am I hurting anybody? And if the answer is no, then like you just have to keep, at least is what I tell myself. Like, yeah, just fuck all that. Fuck all that.
You seem like the person who would cut someone out of your life if they were all hate and negativity rather than working it out, right?
Oh, interesting. Not necessarily. It depends on who the person is. Okay. Like, and if somebody's being negative, then no, there has to be an effort to repair the. It depends on who it is. You know what I'm saying? If it's somebody you like really know, there has to be an effort to be like, hey, you're being negative, because sometimes maybe the person doesn't even know. But yeah, if it comes like a certain point where they're like dragging you down and you've addressed the situation multiple times, then you gotta cut it off. You have to, like, for your own sake. But I don't know. What do you think about that, Christine?
When I have hate, I shut them out and I do whatever I want to do, because at the end of the day, it's my life. Like, you have no right to tell me what to do. And the other thing is that I do get negativity from my own family, just because they're like, Christine, shouldn't you be focusing on your job? Like, my mom said that, and I was like, but you also praise my YouTube channel. I don't understand you. She's like so proud of me, but she's like, you should focus more on your job. That's the one that makes you money. And then I start to tell her like, I'm making money. I'm just like, so I like to prove people wrong when it comes to those situations for the negativity. So then it turns it into positivity.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. That's right. And I get hate from my family too. Matter of fact, sometimes it's like the people that are closest to you that are really the most painful, that like really jag the daggers in, because then you have to work with it or live with it.
Yeah. So what are your long and short-term goals with your rapping career?
Short-term goals is I have a project. I'm working on a project.
Nice. Like
my first mixtape, if you will. And that's in the short term. I'm trying to drop it by early summer, late spring. And then long term, I really, really, really want to make almost like a stamp on the culture somehow. And that takes like a pretty widely known, like people have to hear my music, but I want to stamp on the culture, being like, this is a sound, this was a presence, this was, I don't know, a perspective brought to us by this young shawty from Dallas, Texas, this young Asian girl from Dallas, Texas, and be able to say like, yeah, that's what she brought to the table, and it be a part of American culture. I think that'd be cool.
So if you could control anything about that, like what would you want to be known for in the music industry?
Ooh, I haven't thought about that. Okay. I want to be remembered for the differences, almost like the uniqueness that I bring to the table, like my uniqueness, meaning, I think it has something to do with like the Asian being from the South, and then like being an American here. That's my uniqueness, my originality, my creativity that hasn't been seen before because of the things that make me who I am. Yeah. So I guess basically I want to be known for me. Is that narcissistic? I don't know.
No. You gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah.
Especially in like the creative industry, like you can't be doing someone else, you have to do yourself. So do you actually draw a lot of your inspiration for your music from your personal experiences or maybe observations or even some parodies?
Great question. No, inspirations, you mean style wise, or I guess
Anything. Could be like the actual content, the lyrics, the actual song itself, maybe.
Yeah, definitely the content of the music itself is definitely from my own experiences, and my own feeling towards those experiences. And then I think the style is really for my musical inspirations, growing up around where my musical environment, which is Southern music, Erykah Badu, a lot of T-Pain, a lot of Lil Jon, even Missy Elliott, like UGK, Southern folks. And then like a good example of something that came from a real life experience was even Jackie Faye Adventures, which is out everywhere, y'all. Check it out, stream that shit, run it up. And like one of my roommates actually stole my TV, and that's why in the song it goes, "Bitch, you stole my TV. You was mad. You was trying to see me, but I ain't fucking with some snitch, bum bitch, fuka hookah." And so, yeah, it's like a direct. But that experience for me was kind of like painful a little bit, you know, because somebody stole my fucking TV. So, but it's cool because music, you're able to convert that into something that's positive. Like you're converting that experience. And it doesn't have to be pain, it could be happiness, but you're converting it into something that is positive and therapeutic for you as an artist, but then connects to somebody else as a listener, and then just so fucking cool. Like that's the coolest part about music. So I think that's, it's my music for me is definitely going to be, just to wrap this up. Yeah. My music is definitely a method for me to convert my life experiences, and most of the time like painful life experiences, into something that is therapeutic for me to go through in the process of making music, but also like really kind of scary to share in this vulnerable aspect of like how I truly feel and stuff with the world. So yeah.
So I feel like a lot of people in the music industry, actually, because they pour themselves into their music, if someone doesn't like your song, do you feel that is like an attack to yourself or just to your craft?
That's a really good question, because I feel like a lot of artists, or even any creative, like struggles with that. I'm gonna cop what one of my mentors has said to me in the past, but it's, yeah, for sure. It's definitely a very vulnerable thing, because you're putting like how you really feel into something for somebody else to share. And if they judge it, it's a very personal thing. But I think as an artist, you wouldn't want to put it out there if you didn't want people to listen to it, right? Yeah. Otherwise you could just make music and have nobody listen to it. So I think I'm of the mindset that if somebody listens to it, they don't like it, they don't fucking like it. Like it's just not for them. They might not connect with it. They just don't connect with it. They don't connect with it. They don't relate to it. And that's fine. That's dope. But if I'm going to put out music out there, and this is what my mentor told me, then I have to really like it. So I've been trying to go there. Like, I don't know if I really have a full-on answer for my own like experience necessarily, but so far I've been putting out music that I like, and I like it, so I want other people to listen to it. And if they like it, dope. If they don't, keep it pushing. But what you don't have to do is come in my DM like, bitch, I fucking hate this, is fucking trash. Like, I'm like, all right, you're like, anyway. Anyway.
Yeah, that's interesting, because like a lot of people I know that are in the creative industry, not just the music industry, they feel attacked sometimes, and it's hard for them to move on or even try to make it bigger than it is already. But it looks like you have a pretty good head on your shoulders for this.
Well, thank you. I guess, you know, I keep it bobbling. But yeah, I think it is definitely difficult though. It's hard. Again, like it's almost like with your haters. Yeah. Like the attitude of just being like, not give a fuck is way easier said than done. It takes effort and it takes labor to constantly like reassure yourself, or not even reassure yourself, but like get yourself in the mindset of being like, I like it.
Yeah.
And that takes confidence. That takes like effort in building that confidence. Be like, I like it. It doesn't matter if anyone else doesn't like it, but I'm putting it out there so that I can connect to people. Yeah.
So I'm going to tie this back into having a full-time job, because I'm curious, if you are trying to work on a song, but it's not exactly the way you like it and you just keep on tweaking it, but you have a deadline and you have a job, like have you had stories where you're trying to do both at the same time?
Yeah. And this is what I was talking about with your all the time in the world question.
Yeah.
Because I could spend literally all the time in the world tweaking shit. Why you tweaking, ho? Anyway. Yeah. So it depends. Such a shitty answer, but it's true. It depends. It depends on the song. It depends on what's like riding on the deliverable of that song. If you will. Like if it's a feature for somebody else, then somebody else is counting on you to finish it so that they can do their shit. So that's a little different. Okay. And I think you have to respect that. And if it's for yourself, it's also like how much, because the more time you spend on something, like anything else, the more expensive it is. Like it's studio time, it's like actual labor time. So you always have to consider that. And it's also like, is it worth, you basically have to make like a cost benefit analysis kind of situation. It's like it really is a business decision. Like, is the amount of effort that I want to put into this to get it to a point where it's like a complete enough product, if you will, for me to put out there, is the amount of labor that it's going to take to finish that idea worth what it's going to cost? Like, and the cost could be like money, time, or like relationship sometimes, right? Like if it's a feature for somebody. And if the answer is yes, it's worth it, then yeah, finish it, but finish it like set a timeline. Like this is what I need to do, like a little project plan. Like this is what I need to do to get it done, and this is what I want. And that is the bare minimum for me to put it out, and that's, give them a date. But if you don't even know what the fuck you want and you don't even know how to finish the idea, then I would say just like cut it off and come back to it later. Like it's not that serious. Yeah.
Interesting. I always felt like probably at this point you won't have that many strict deadlines because you don't have that many stakeholders just like yelling at you. But at this point, this is probably the time where you're playing in the sandbox. And I don't know, do you have any deadlines, or those are deadlines you set on yourself?
These are mostly deadlines I set for myself because, again, like I want to grow the foundation. If I don't do these things, like I'll just stay stagnant, But you're right, I am in the sandbox. I'm playing with different sounds, even like from a musical standpoint. I'm playing with how my voice sounds over a guitar versus like a piano versus over a more trappy beat versus like a more Erykah Badu beat. And I'm really playing with my craft, which I would just like to go on another rant really quick.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of artists lose sight. It's really easy to get lost in the sauce of the business aspect of things as an artist because you have deadlines to meet and because you have money to make. But there has to be some level, especially as an artist, where you're focusing on the growth of your craft. And that to me is the most important thing. So I'm not going to sacrifice like that growth process or the effort that it takes to get to where I want to be as an artist for, any amount of like businessy shit. That's what's most important to me.
So your focus right now is to perfect your craft and then eventually, okay.
Right. I mean, work on them in parallel as much as possible. But if it ever comes to a point where I'm compromising my growth as an artist, like I'm going to put this on pause so that I can get to where I want to go as an artist. That to me is the most important thing. And also I feel like the most significant thing I can give back to people. Yeah.
So there's a lot of stories that I'm hearing from you in the music industry, but I do also want to talk about the fact that you're also a woman. So you're in tech, you're in the hip hop industry, and in both situations, it is male dominated. What were some challenges that you faced as a woman, like either professionally or personally?
Yeah. Beyond the judgment, it's the taking you seriously. It's the ego of I need to be in charge. In the music industry particularly, it's sometimes like the sexualness. or like the here, I just want to work with you so we can slide, instead of like taking me serious as an artist and being like, let's work together. I think shit is getting better though, for sure. There's a lot more work to be done. And even like the type of music we listen to for music is, at least there's more women doing it now.
Yeah.
But I think like just more commercial investment in like people that aren't doing like the mainstream like trap, hip hop, rap, which is dope, like Megan, Cardi and them, versus like Rhapsody or like Tierra Whack. And in tech, it's like the same shit. It's like the ego. It's the ego. It's not taking you seriously. It's a patronizing tone. It's also the interruptions. Like it's kind of the same thing. Actually, it's just men being men. Yeah, you know, it's you know, do you know what I'm talking about though? Yeah, it's that same kind of thing. But I think you can't give up, and we can't, as women, I don't think we can afford to be stagnant either, because if we don't put in the labor to change things, we're just stuck in the same ass position. You know, like then there's no use in talking about it because we're not doing anything to change it. So it's kind of a shitty reality, and it's like pretty anger inducing oftentimes. And I feel this like, sometimes I get this like rage of just like, this is such bullshit. But then I think therapeutically sort of working through that, through music, especially for me, I mean, anyone can have any sort of outlet, drawing or painting. I think working through that rage is really helpful, because there's still so much work to be done, you know?
So I do have this follow-up question. As part of the LGBT community, did you feel specific challenges on that for being in tech or the hip hop industry? Oh, yeah. This is just my experience though. Okay. Because I'm sure there are plenty of gay people, lesbians out there. But in tech, I guess it's difficult, because at the end of the day, like what I'm portraying to the world, my external identity, what people see first is the fact that I'm an Asian woman, not the fact that I'm gay. Because unless I'm like presenting anything sort of, it's like an internal to external thing, like the queerness, whereas like the racial gender thing is like a very external to internal kind of thing. Yep. But when I do talk about it, I would say in the hip hop industry, I don't know, it almost like, it's the assumption that it decreases like your appeal to the wider audience, maybe, or the relevance perhaps. I'm not really sure, but I do know like the getting hit on thing and me being like, no, I'm gay. And then people still be like, oh, like you want to do like a, you know, like a, it's like a three-way type situation. Like on the phone, the fuck are you talking about right now, bro? But yeah, it's a sexualization aspect. And I will say I'm even more sexualized, and I'm comfortable. Like I'm down if that's my intention to be like sexualized in a certain way. But as an Asian woman specifically, I'm and even as a gay, like when you add in all that, I'm sexualized in a very, very specific way that I really hate sometimes. But it's something that I can't control, because Asian women are just sexualized as this like I don't know, like submissive creature thing. And I can't that's, if anything, the most frustrating thing, that I just like, I get it, but it's just like not now. I don't want that all the time. And I feel like I do get that more than I want to. Interesting. So what are some pitfalls you notice women do, and what have you done to get out of it? Pitfalls that women do, like what do you mean by pitfall? I guess like just any, like either in the workplace or personally on a general spectrum. Like for some reason, some women don't like to speak up. They feel like they don't deserve a place on the table. Like if you had anything similar to that. Yeah, I mean, we all make mistakes. Like there are times when even like I would deliberately not speak up, because I almost like felt like subconsciously it was like, this is not my place. But I think to recognize what you're up against and then to deliberately go against them, again, out of, and this might not be available for everybody, but deliberately going against what you know is like that perception of you,
I think is good. It takes practice though, and it does take courage, but I believe everyone can do it. And I think something else is that, more importantly, because we can't control how men are going to treat us at the end of the day, like we can only speak from our experience. But what is really important, and what I feel like we can control, is how we build relationships with other women, any woman particularly, because women always say that we're like for each other and like supportive, like, you know, women, because we all understand the plight. But when it comes to like putting that into actions, I feel like sometimes we fall short, which I understand and I empathize with the reason, because we're all kind of set up to hate each other. But really like putting that into action and like actually supporting women, uplifting women, particularly women of color, like actually being like, hey, how's everything going today? Like converting your actual like let's support women into action. And what I find is, especially in the corporate workplace, because of just how dog eat dog it can be sometimes, you'll have women say that they support women and expect support from other women just so they can be at the top, you know? And that, like, that's not actually supporting women. You're actually just being a fucking man, but you're a woman, so you expect support. You know what I mean? Like, like I think we should really acknowledge what work we have to do just amongst each other as women, because it's uncomfortable to like lift each other up because we're not used to it as much, maybe. I don't know. Yeah.
I can totally relate to that. Yeah.
I'm sure you can. I'm sure you can, girl.
So out of everything, like what are some strong female role models that you look up to?
My aunt, my grandmother, they were both like, they're both G's, like straight up. My aunt is like a single mom, and I mean my mom also single mom, so just seeing like what they have to do and get done at the end of the day for the sake of their kids is pretty inspiring. And like really not letting any perception of the world like guide what they know they have to do, you know. So that's pretty inspiring. Musically, like right now, honestly, it's always been Erykah Badu, Missy Elliott, all those folks. Nicki. Right now, Meg Thee Stallion though, she's killing it, and so I really like the way she's like, she's different, and she is different. She's literally like 5'10", like they from, you know, and I really like the way she's like owning her difference and her uniqueness, and still being a woman and being powerful, doing all that shit. But just probably Solange too. Solange is crazy. She directs her own videos.
Wow.
And have you seen her music videos? They're nuts. She directs them. She does the music for them. It's crazy from a business standpoint and career standpoint. I really like to follow Solange's path. Like she also created her own path in terms of being like a director, artist, all this other kind of stuff. So yeah, those are the women.
So what would make it the dream collaboration?
Like what is my dream collaboration?
Yeah, with any of those female role models if you had to.
Probably Solange. That would be crazy.
Yeah. I had a feeling from the way you were talking about her.
Yeah, I mean Erykah Badu's up there. But Solange, like Solange is musically maybe Erykah Badu, but Solange, like her visual projects are just insane. So that would be, oh my god, I don't know what I would do if she hit me up.
I'm gonna have to look her up because I don't even know how her videos look like, but now I'm intrigued.
Yeah, check them out, they're really cool.
Okay, so we're gonna close off this podcast episode, but before we do that, can you tell us about your newest single?
Yes, ma'am. So it's Jackie Faye Adventures featuring Chow Mein. Shout out to him. Shout out to the Bay. And it's out everywhere right now. There's going to be some cool stuff coming out for it soon, but check it out on Spotify, Apple Music, whatever. It's inspired from the 2000 cartoon, Jackie Chan Adventures. So I hope you guys really like it. I watched that show. It was lit. Yeah. So yeah, like the chorus was like, "You won't go fi dito." Yeah. Yeah. So that's in the song. Yeah. So if you guys watch that show, I think you'll really like the song.
Yeah, actually, like my boyfriend and I, we were listening to that, and we were like, that was the part we liked the most, the "Umay Goy Goy Friday Down." It's just so catchy the way you did it too. I was like, oh, well, that was good.
Oh, thank you. I'm trying to be a rapper. You know?
All right. So, what is on the horizon for you in 2021?
Yeah, so a lot more live streams. Keep that coming. I'll post tickets. I'll be doing a lot more live performances. And then I have a mixtape dropping end of spring. It's going to be called Drip Tape. So check that out. And yeah, that's about it.
So where do we find out about these live streams? Do you have like a website, or is this somewhere else?
Oh, yeah. Follow me at Got Jackie, like Got Milk. Got Jackie. And I'll be posting all the updates there of where I'll be, what I'll be doing. Keep up with me on my Instagram.
Okay, so Instagram is primarily where you have everything.
Right.
Okay.
And maybe TikTok. Right. Follow me on TikTok.
Okay, so what can we do to support you then?
Just please check out my music. Keep up to date with me at God Jackie. I have a music video out, a live stream production out, which shout out to the Dallas team. I had produced, my sister had directed, and a close homie, had a shot for us. And so please check that out. It was really a wonderful live production. And yeah, just check out all my music and let me know how you feel.
All right, thank you so much. I learned actually a lot in this episode. I did not expect to have a lot of the conversations that we had, and it was really interesting. So hopefully everyone who's listening will think the same. But for one last thing do you have any final words?
Stay sane, everybody. These are some rough fucking times, so I hope you're taking care of yourself. Yeah.
All right, thank you so much. And all of her social media handles are down below, so definitely follow her and also check out her single, and also wait for Drip Tape because I'm definitely waiting for that.
Hey, I appreciate it. It's gonna be fun.
Thank you.